Alrighty, hello everybody, how are you? Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make a terraria mod that you can fully customize and do plenty of things with. And yeah, in this video we're just going to show you how to enable developer mode and actually make a mod. Not really into much detail on how to start making things like enemies, bosses, stuff like that. All the cool stuff, But don't worry, that'll come later. This is just going to be the core building block basics, and after watching this video, you'll be able to make probably a decent amount of basic weapons. So the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to enable developer mode. Now, I have already enabled it as I'm working on a mod right now, but I'm pretty sure there should just be a button down here to enable developer mode. If not, there's plenty of tutorials on how to, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, it's a pretty easy thing. Might ask you a few questions, just confirm to your consent stuff. But yeah, shouldn't be too hard to get in. I just kind of free-handed it, and yeah, it worked out fine. You're gonna want to go to Workshop, Develop Mods, Create Mod. Now it's gonna bring this up, and this is just a few questions to actually start your basic mod. So mod name is the internal name of your mod, which I'm just gonna call Test for YouTube. And yeah, this is important. This is what you use for references. So honestly, if it's not that important, it's probably better to keep it short and simple. Camel case if you can. There even just no capitals. The display name is what people are gonna actually see. So I'm gonna do that. The mod author is what Tmodloader puts as whoever made the mod, which in this case is me. And the basic sword is the name of your sword, because it starts you out with a sword when you spawn in, when you make your mod. So I'm gonna call this the Tesla sword, and yeah, let's create our mod. So after you do that, this pop-up should come up, and if you go to mod sources, you should see whatever you did, which is test for YT in my case, because that is what I typed in when it asked me what the mod name was. Sorry, sneeze. Alright, so here, icon.png, right here. This is what you will see when people search up your mod after it's published. This is the first thing they'll come across. They'll see this, the name, the author, the version. So, yeah. If you want to go all fancy, you can. Depends on how serious you want to be with your mod. If you just want to make something for you and your friends to play, this might not even matter at all, because this is that. So, yep, Control S when you're done, and that will save it. And as of right now, that's all we need to do right here. Now, you'll notice 3 folders. We have properties, localization, and items. And right now, we want to go to items. So you can see it made us a pre-made Tesla sword that I'm going to be using to make, well, a different sword. So it spawned us in with a nice sword we can use here, as well as a Tesla sword.cs file. Now, if you don't know what CS is, it stands for C#, and C# is what this is going to be using. So when you open your testsword.cs, this is what it should look like. So there's a lot of different parameters here. The main one to notice is, well, let's just go down. So let's start public class Tesla sword mod item. So we're basically saying we're going to start a new class. It's the Tesla sword, which is what we're using, and it is an item in our mod. So this is important. This is how the game knows what PNG file to use, what it's trying to reference. If you like reference it in another thing, for example, if you have a projectile, shooting that projectile, or if you want to add an item to your recipe, then you need this. This is very important. You can't have 2 items with the same name. It will get upset at you. Alright, now this is your mod name. It should automatically be there. Yeah. So let's get into the set defaults. These are important. This is basically what is like the backbone for anything. It just determines very bare bones things. It's like, let's just go down. Damage, this should be self-explanatory. This is how much damage your weapon does. Now, I want a weapon for post Skeletron Prime, so I think 150 damage would be good for this. Damage class melee. This is item damage type. This is what type of damage you have. You have melee, magic, ranged, and summon. Just experiment around with it. Yeah. So height, width. This is like your hitbox. I wouldn't mess with that unless you know what you're doing because it can get complicated. Use time. This is for like when you shoot a projectile. I'm gonna set this to 60, which if this is in ticks, it should be 1 second. Now, animation and use style is a little complicated. These we should just leave the same right now. And knockback, this is a powerful weapon, so I think knockback could be 10. And yeah. Now again, I said I want this to be post Skeletron Prime, so I'm gonna set the recipe to be hollowed bars. So hollowed bar 10 and souls of fright, soul fright 5. Now this is all we need for our recipe, except we are going to want it to be crafted out of an anvil. So basically, right here, add ingredient. We have 2 of these things saying add ingredient. So public override void add recipe. Now we're making a new recipe, so we're telling it this is a recipe, named recipe, and it's this variable is a recipe. Its name is recipe, and it's equal to create recipe. So now we basically have create recipe dot add ingredient twice to add these ingredients, 10 and 5 respectively, and then add tile, which basically means this tile needs to be nearby to use. Dot item tile tile ID dot anvil, and then recipe dot register, which just it's self-explanatory. It just kind of makes it work. Ugh. Doesn't really add anything. It just makes it work. You'll see that a lot in code. Okay. Alrighty, and with all that done, there's only one thing you're gonna need to do. You make sure you saved all of your CS code by doing Control S. If you see at the top, if there's a blue dot or white dot, if I go back, right here, if I were to add something, there's now a white dot up there. If I Control S, that goes away. That's how you know it's saved. So you're going to go in here. Now build will make sure there are no errors, and build and reload is what you're going to want to do if you're ever going to playtest your mod. So this might take a bit because I have Calamity mod enabled. Alrighty, and now that your mod is loaded, you can go to Workshop, Manage Mods, and right here, test for YT v0.1. And this can actually tell you, which I'm just not realizing actually, it can tell you all the things it adds, which we add 1 item versus the other mod I'm working on, which adds 26 items, 2 NPCs, a tile, and a buff. Calamity mod is just absurd. 76 walls feels so specific. 10 mounts? Alright, yeah. Alrighty. So now I am going to join with Glimper on one of my worlds. And I'm going to enable God mode. Alrighty. Now let's look up our sword. And you can see we have the Tesla sword for 150 true melee damage, which is added by Calamity. I did not do that. And you can see we can swing it rather quickly actually for 150 damage. And something I would like to point out with the use time is use time does not have to do with the swing time. Swing time is a completely different factor in itself. Use time has to do with projectiles. Speaking of projectiles, that gets us into our next section. Now with these videos, I'd like to have multiple sections. A beginner section for basically just the basics of what you're trying to do. For example, if I have a weapon, a video on how to make a bow, the beginner would just be how to make a bow that shoots an arrow. But then I might add an advanced section which would teach you how to make your own arrow and then have the bow shoot that instead. Alright, so hopping back into our script, Tesla Sword, we're going to add 3 new parameters, and we are going to do item dot shoot item dot scale and item dot shoot speed. So item dot shoot is our projectile we're going to shoot, and in this case I'm going to do projectile ID dot I'm going to do the magic missile. And for the shoot speed, this is how fast the projectile will move. So I'm just going to do 10 is good. Item.scale, this is a multiplier to your item size. And I kind of want a bigger weapon, so I'm going to make it 1.75. And because we're doing a float, we have to do F for float at the end. Alrighty, so hopping back in here, we're again going to build and reload our test for YT. Alright, and now that's done, we are going to hop back into single player on our character, on our world, and going into the game. We have our Tesla sword, and it definitely looks much bigger. And you can also tell that it's now shooting the magic missile once every second. Alright, thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions still, be sure to leave those in the comments. I'll have a link to the example mod for Tmodloader, as well as the website for items and projectiles link that you can just use. Yep. If you have any suggestions for future tutorials, leave comments. I'll be sure to look at them and possibly make them into a video. And have an amazing day. And yeah, thanks for watching.